So first up, I am very proud to be weird and odd, as my young people call me. And I really do try to show that in a variety of ways, as a beacon for other people to know who I am, but also for other people to perhaps know it's a way to avoid me if needed. In terms of my role, so I work in a high school of approximately 600 people, and my role is within the high school as a student support officer. Now, within the school, schools are fabulous structures, but very difficult for people to understand who don't work within a school. There's a whole process of school plans which are happening 3 to 5 years in advance. There's a lot of policy that fits around that, and there's a huge focus on education and learning. Some of the talks which I have participated in through this series have asked the question of how do we get into schools, and part of my direction would be to have a look at those school plans for schools no matter where you are, because the more relevant which you can be on those school plans and on the focuses that they have, the more likely that your program is going to be shared. The other area is community. Now, I would be considered a gatekeeper for my school in terms of ensuring that the community that is coming in is specific to what we're doing, but also making sure that the community and the projects that might be happening actually meet the service specifications and the ideas that the funding bodies might have. So, for example, if a service wants to come in and run a program with a specific amount of young people, I will sit down with them beforehand and ask a lot of questions about that to ensure that we're actually meeting their needs and ensuring that we're meeting the young people's needs as well, because there have been times where I've noticed that services really want to provide a service, but they also have a huge constraint in terms of the fact that they want 100% attendance for their programs. And that can be a huge issue if you're looking to work with the more pointy end of our clientele who may not always be available for 100% of a program's time. So I kind of sit within that fluid gap. While I was sitting in one of the presentations, we saw the angry hamburger, and I literally went, I am the space of opportunity. So being an SSO, we originally started 8 years ago in New South Wales, and it consisted of 50 positions to start off with. It's been reviewed by the University of New South Wales, and it is basically a youth work position within schools, and I'm very proud to now be a part of the team that is leading where all schools within New South Wales within a few years will have a full-time student support officer in their public high school. Now, this is a huge achievement for the group who have lasted, those original 50. We've had a lot of obstacles to overcome, of course, but we really are meeting that space of opportunity. So it's quite fluid, and we're able to fill the gaps in ways which a service couldn't. So first of all, I do go to the people. I do host a space within the school, which is called the Hub, and young people feel that it's their space. I might provide supervision and a whole lot of activities out of it, but they definitely believe that it's their space. There's a wave of opportunities for support and purpose that come out of that space. So it might be something as simple as creating a footy tipping competition, which we have at the moment, but it provides young people with an opportunity to walk away from their friendship groups and have some time out because they're focused on something else for even 5 minutes. And young people are really good at drama, so being able to provide those alternate opportunities has been really critical. the language really matters, and I often have discussions with my young people, especially when they first start, when they want to call me Miss. And I explain to them that I'm Stacy, because I get to know them, I get to know their name, and I think that that's really important. But also from a power perspective, I think that it's important that I'm not Miss, Mrs, and that I'm not seen as that teaching role, because then they can actually take the time and opportunity to come and talk to me if they need to. And insisting on Stacy has had its downside in that I hear my name more often than I perhaps would like to admit, but it does mean that they will come and have discussions that perhaps they wouldn't have otherwise. And being honest, there are times within the hierarchy that I don't know, and being able to share that with them is really quite powerful. So I actually asked some of my young people to help me out today, and they made me a word cloud. And these are some of the things which they've identified in terms of what I do with them. Now, I did ask them on Facebook as well, because I thought that that was important. So first of all, I'm fun. So for example, if any of you have seen the Fitness Marshal, I love the Fitness Marshal. I will regularly dance about with the Fitness Marshal within my space. I also really love old school Batman. So I will put that up with the shark repellent spray just to teach a different lesson than what they might learn otherwise. For example, special effects from the 1980s and 70s. In terms of food, I'm very well renowned for making an awesome cheese toastie. Now, this is something which I have had reviewed on many occasions, but I make about 50 loaves of cheese toasties per week. Now, that's a fair amount of toasties, so I must be doing a good job. We provide an open breakfast club, and I also make a variety of other foods within my space. That could be a reason why young people come in, but definitely not the reason which they stay. The young people do have an opportunity at purpose. And so, for example, I host an Interact Club within the school, and at the moment we have 70 members who are looking to support the community in some way, shape or form. Last year they spent a lot of time creating different projects, such as doing a food drive. They also did a kindness project for an entire term, and it really does give them a purpose every week to be able to have something to do. In terms of seeing mess, now that's a really odd concept, but for most young people, when they talk to their parents or they talk to teachers, they see people who are trying to be okay and all right all of the time. You know, they're trying to be on top of everything, and although they might not always be succeeding, there's not a lot of that mess, or there's not a lot of, I suppose, human there. I'm crazy and love doing silly things all the time, so I don't mind being messy and actually saying, you know, I don't know, I'm not sure. Participating in some of the activities that the kids do, such as eating ice cream eating competitions or fun runs. I'm not the best, but I'm showing that it doesn't matter. Everyone can have a go. And I think that being a role model for that has been really critical. Finding your people. Now, most of the time within high school, it's really hard to find your people, but I kind of have a knack for that. And so we have a informal mentoring program that happens from year 12 down to year 7, and within the normal playground there you wouldn't see a lot of that cross mixing within most high schools. However, I often see year 12s playing with year 7 kids. So being able to fulfill that gap there and being able to actually connect people is really important. These are some of my young people, And I can tell you that I truly live with purpose by being in this position. It is amazing what some of these young people can achieve and how much mess we get into in the process. So, for example, you can see us in our Colour Fun Run, where we just thrown chalk at everybody for a full half an hour. What was the purpose of that for the young people? Well, they got a bit of revenge and, you know, got to be able to have that time where they matriculated. Being able to go to the Year 12 formal and see them and say goodbye, but I don't actually get to ever say goodbye, they come back. And being able to create relationships long term, especially with the community. So, how do we engage young people? This is something which came up time and time again in some of our discussions in this series. And I've had a range of different organisations come and attempt to talk to young people. And sometimes they turn up in the suits and they want to use a language which young people don't necessarily understand. And so I first of all ask, why are you wanting to engage with young people? What are you wanting to talk about? And if you are wanting to engage with them, then go to them when they feel safe. Going to a school environment is really important because that's where they are a lot of the time. Make sure you provide food and that it's interesting food. The favourite is chocolate milk and lollies. That's it. Be honest about what you want, why you want it, and how you will report back. Some young people definitely want to give their feedback, but they want to know, why do you want to know about this? What are you going to do with it afterwards? And I find the difficult action is when people don't come back. They don't actually follow through. They don't report an outcome. Even if it's the one which we don't necessarily want or wasn't the one which you wanted to have in terms of a project, it's still better to get an answer to continue to engage those young people long term in the idea of connection and community. So, this is my school. This is a Snapchat, right? And for one of our anti-bullying days, we decided to take a selfie of the school. Now, young people love social media, and it's part of the reason why I have a Facebook page. It's part of the reason why when we have big events, I actually make a Snapchat filter with them, so that then when we're in the same venue, we can all be using the same filter. Now, I'm not friends with them on Snapchat, but the power of being able to have those connections where I made that, I was involved in that, they're really critical and important. Now, in terms of my school, I fill the gaps in whatever's needed. So all of my role basically fills in between education and the rest of the world. So it's all health and well-being stuff. And it's about making sure that whatever they need is able to be found, which is really critical for young people, because sometimes they feel that they don't necessarily understand, they're not necessarily understood, they're not necessarily supported, and being able to provide the answers to those questions is really key to being able to create those relationships and being able to be that safe, trusted person that's not necessarily family. One of my parents actually sent me a message before tonight, and she said, one of the most important things which I do is that I repeat exactly what she has said to her son about cleaning his room, but I explain it in a way that makes him feel that she loves him and that it's important for him to clean his room, and so he does. because I'm a safe, trusted adult and I just have a different way of communicating. So these are all of the people who I love, and I've definitely been thinking about them this afternoon as I was creating this presentation. And in terms of I know where I'm up to because I've got a counter thing. In terms of being a gatekeeper and being the person who allows for access for services into my school, if you need to find how to gain access to a school, part of what I would recommend is getting involved in whatever they're promoting. So, for example, if there is a open event, go along, get to know staff. It can be a really difficult thing for staff members to get involved with the community if they don't have somebody like me, because it isn't something which they have a lot of experience in. I fortunately had 12 years of experience in the community before I came to a high school, so I was able to bridge the gap more so now than ever before. And so now I will take some questions.